Hi second years, welcome to my channel. Alrighty, I'm redoing this video from yesterday because I can make it much shorter just by going from the start. So I pulled in these three views. I don't like the amount of space I've got here, so a neat trick here is if you right click on sheet on the left hand side, go to properties, then you can either go to this browse button and find your sheet formats in wherever you've placed them, or actually cancel that. Actually, I've loaded mine into the standard address. I'm going to select one of my standard ones and apply changes, and you'll see it'll just drop everything in. So that gives us a bit more space. This is much nicer. So quick reminder, I had drawn a rectangle. And what else had I drawn? I think that was it. It was a rectangle and something else. And the point was dimensioning using parallelism. So I just need to refine what I said yesterday, that when you're dimensioning anything which is obviously has parallel sides, then you shouldn't dimension to the points. You should always dimension to these ends, and what you're dimensioning is always parallel. So I know what else I had quickly sketched was a polygon. Okay, so the polygon like that, normally you dimension across the flat, so it could be like that, and the shortcut for that is AF. So capital AF across the flats. You don't need to do that. You can just put the dimension. It's obvious it's across the flats, but it's just so that you know that. The other way to dimension this is just to dimension the inscribed circle, because that's exactly the same as anything which is across the flats. Right. So the idea in this lesson is that we examine what it means to dimension something from which is on an odd sort of plane, like this plane here, which is represented by that area there. You cannot dimension these features inside here unless you've got a point of view which is perpendicular to that plane, and that allows you to do things which are legitimately a matter of parallelism, tangency, perpendicularity, all those rules of dimensioning which are crucial because they entail dimensioning the true shape of the thing, not some sort of representation. And so we'll go through why that's difficult, or why that's a problem now. I'll just try and illustrate it. So here's my my top view. Right, and what it did have when I brought it in, which I don't have right now, is it had a center point. So I'm going to put in a center mark for that one. Should try that again. Okay, so that's what it had in place. Then I tried to draw a center line from this point upwards. Now there's a much easier way. Obviously, if you choose your center line, don't start from the center point. Just go up to one of the quadrants, and as soon as it highlights, you can get the line to start tracing itself from one side to the other. So there you get one line. Okay, so we can do the same over here. Right, there's another way of getting center lines if you've got two parallel lines like this, is also to go to center line and then just select those two. So, whoops, that's the wrong line. Need to be careful here to choose the outer line. Okay, so that's put it in place. And then once you've got that in place, you can just drag it across, and it will not move. It will stay centered within those two lines. Right, so there's a little bit of a problem here in that when you've got two sets of lines, like I've got a center line and I've got a center mark, that caused problems for me yesterday, and I think those problems are worth examining for your benefit too. So the first thing I wanted to do was to dimension these three items, and I can see there's some sort of pattern. I know there's a pattern because I drew it in the model, so let me go across to the magic button, which is this model items one, and select this item. And you'll see it puts in the dimensions which I've put in the sketch, okay? What it doesn't do is put in the instance count, so how many of these items are in here. There's a button on the left-hand side here, instance revolution counts. If you click it, it should put it in. For some reason, it's not. You're going to have to figure out why that is, but that's the button you push and it'll put a little 3 in. So that's okay. This is doing well. But you can see it's giving a diameter 20 and there's no circle, and it's giving a diameter 62, no circle, and it's giving an angle and there's no reference point as to where that angle starts and ends, whether it's to the center, which is where it should be, but at the moment it's not telling me. Okay, so I had figured out yesterday that there were two ways of putting the center line in here. And in fact, there are three. You can go back to this center line one and you can just select two lines. 1, 2. Let's try that again. Okay, so you can do it that way, and I can do all three. That's one way. In this case, that's not ideal. The circles actually makes more sense. So I'm going to select my circle command, but instead of selecting the center circle, go to the perimeter circle and simply select 3 perimeter lines. And it will, you can see the little tangent sign is popping up. So it will snap to tangent. You just have to be patient to wait for that symbol to appear. So that's those 3. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to select these 3. And I want them to be construction. I can go for construction there, or I can right click and I can say construction geometry. All right, so those are good. Now I want to establish some center lines. So I've put my center line in. Now here's where this little mark in the middle can cause problems. You can see it's wanting to go to a separate point. It's noting that there are 2 different things here. If I wait for the center of the circle to pop up, then I know that's accurate. Okay, so let's just see. So, and once again, wait for the center mark to appear. In this case, it's put it in. But in fact, this center mark is a problem if I've got these other lines, because I'm getting confused. So no, I'm going to leave it in place for now, because that also caused a problem with the angle dimension, and I'll show you why. But after that, we'll take it out, because if you've got these 2 lines, that's just causing problems. Let's just complete the other 3 lines from that's the center to the center, and one more. Okay, so we've got those 3, and then I wanted to dimension this angle, so I went from there and I selected the center, because I was assuming that I could go from one end to the other end to the other end, as you would do in a sketch. But that's not how it works in the sketch environment, and that's because what you're dimensioning here, all these lines, are not just lines. They're actually a representation of the model. SolidWorks brings the model in, and so what you're actually working off is the model. So that's why sometimes snapping to these things using the snaps doesn't appear to work. So if you select the center point, if you select it on either of the axes, it'll dimension to that axis. So this is the vertical axis that I'm selecting, so it'll dimension to the vertical axis. That's why it won't give me this line here. If I select to the horizontal axis, let's do that again. Right, so go from there, and I'm selecting the horizontal axis of that center mark, so it'll give me the horizontal one. What I want to do is I want to dimension from that line to this line, and all I do is select the 2. So it is quite simple, and there's no difference between SolidWorks 2017 and 2020. They work exactly the same in all these respects. So when I said yesterday it had to do with changes or updates in abilities in 2020, that's not true. Right, so from here, oh yes, okay, so we really should get rid of this. So just keep that in mind if you are, and there are two of them here. Oh, there, no, there aren't. If you are going to put center lines in, take the center mark out because it just causes problems. So now I need this diameter here, which now is quite easy because I just select now from the center, the circle's center point, which is now quite easy to pinpoint, and I'll wait for it to select the center of one of these circles. Right, so that's that done. To make that into a construction geometry. So now I've got all of this in place. Okay, so I know that that's diameter 20. That gives me a length of 20 across the flats. I can see that that center line is going through this point and this point, which then makes it obvious that these two lines here, that one and that one, are parallel to this one, which means by inference, this diameter 20 will tell me that that dimension is also 20. So let's just do that to illustrate. From here to here is 20, which I don't need, but that's just to illustrate. Okay, so that's it. So the only thing we're missing now is an instance count to tell us that there are 3 of these, and we've got this angle in here, so it's 15. And so it's, in other words, we've gone 15 degrees, and then these are 120 degrees. So a little phone interruption there. Right, so I've got these in place. I just need the instance count, so I can just put in a note, drop in a note here, take off the leader, let's put a number 3 in there, and that's good enough. Right, so these are our dimensions. I've got the pitch circle diameter, which is diameter 62. I've got the angle, which I can assume is going to be common for all 3, and I've got the sort of offset angle here. Right, so the next thing that I dealt with was how do you dimension these pieces? I'm going to first do the auxiliary view to show you, and then I'm going to dimension both of them to show you the difference, why you cannot dimension these cutouts here on this view here, and then later we'll deal with those ones there, why you can't deal with those, and we'll also deal with how to dimension that little line there. So what you need from here is you need a true view. In other words, a view which is perpendicular to this face. Okay, so go up to view layout. It is under auxiliary view. Select a line which you are viewing perpendicular to the plane. In other words, right now, or not perpendicular, end onto the plane. So right now I'm sort of not perpendicular to this plane, but in this view I can see the plane in its kind of representational form. So select that plane, and you'll get this view. While we're at it, it's giving me view H, and that's view H over there. That's because I've been doing a lot of views, and SolidWorks counts them down. If I don't like that, I can just type in this arrow box here a new letter. So I'm going to type in view A, and then I want to align this differently. So I just want to break alignment and pull it in like so. Let's pull this one down. You would typically go and put this somewhere else and then pull this one back up because you want these 3 views associated. But for now, because I want you to see the difference, I'm going to pull this in here. You can pull in your view just so that it's closer to showing you where the point of view is from. In other words, this is showing you, okay, we're looking at that plane perpendicular to it. So you can see immediately that this view has tilted the model away from you so that this is flat, and now I can see the edges. So let's dimension this part in both of these views and see what the difference is. That's right, so that's giving us 7.1, and let's get the pitch. Remember, the pitch is how far apart these are. That's giving us 14.9. And then let's get the size of this face over here, which is 30.4, that's a legitimate dimension as far as understanding that break line from there to there minus this distance. So that 30.4 is correct. It's just not giving you the actual width of this face. All right, so let's dimension on this one. So you can see that's immediately different, 7.2 versus 7.1, and this is the true view. And then the pitch would be 15, and that says 14.9. Oh yes, and then the other thing we need to dimension is this height here. That says 27.6, and in this view, it'll show 26.9. Now, all of these dimensions, that one, and that one, are not correct. So just if you find yourself with a face, have a look at other views to see if that face is flat on to you or not. If it isn't, you need to establish a view which is flat on, which is this view, and then you can dimension these items. So one last thing to dimension is this radius, and let's just see what happens when I do that. So you'll see that this one will give you the true dimension. It'll actually tell you that it's true. Just put that somewhere like that. It's wrong. And this one will give you the same dimension, but it'll just say radius 10 because it knows it's true already. So here SolidWorks is actually recognizing that in fact it needs to give you a true dimension. I did mention yesterday that there was some setting for getting SolidWorks to tell you if a dimension is true. There isn't. There is an issue with true views though, but I won't get into that for now. Right, so let's get rid of these because these are actually, other than that one, not legitimate. And that one's not really a good dimension because it would be better to dimension like this. And then if you needed to dimension from the top line, because that's better, right? So we do need a center line in here. Place an annotation, center line. I'm going to take off or push the no leader button, and here I need to click, and don't do anything else, just click again somewhere else in the drawing if you want to place it again. Click, click, so you click twice, and then when you're ready to finish, you hit the escape button. So there my center line buttons are in place. Let's put these dimensions back in. So that's good. And that one's good. Now, yesterday I did deal quickly with, or I did deal in some detail with sectioning these items. And I said that you had to section, for instance, this feature in this view for you to get a true view, and that is, I've just double checked on myself that is quite correct. So let's just do that. And there are a few problems with sectioning in these views. Well, there's one problem. Let me just show you how to get around it. So go to View Layout, Section View, and here I've got this auxiliary chosen already. So the problem here is it's quite difficult to get it to select perpendicular. It's not going to do it very easily. So you can, let's just backtrack a bit. You can go to the bottom here or to the top, go to right click and then select quick snaps, and your quick snaps will appear, and whatever it can do will be available. So for instance, like this quadrant snap is now grayed out, as is the perpendicular snap. So that is available to you, but that's not going to help in this instance. So I'm going to go to like this, and you'll see it doesn't really want to grab anything. Won't give me a perpendicular sign, and it must be perpendicular. So I'm going to just place it, say that's okay, and then go out. Right. And there are two things about this. One is I want this line to be much shorter because I just need this little piece here. And two is I need to make sure that that line is perpendicular to that line or to that line. So click on the line, right click, say edit cutting line, and then go to edit sketch. Could have done this before, by the way, when it was actually placing it, but I'm just showing you the long way around. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit escape so it doesn't give me the line drawing Command again and just put another line in, and then I'm just going to pull this right into how much I want it to be. And you'll see that even if I click on the line and click on another line in the model, I still don't get the perpendicular snap available. So the workaround for this is to create a little rectangle. So you get a corner rectangle, but you also get a 3-point corner rectangle. We want to use this 3-point corner rectangle. Come from outside that line a little bit, get the second point to lie alongside this line, and then the third one just somewhere up there, right? And then just make this into, I'm going to select chain, make it into a construction drawing so that it won't show up in the section view. And then you can just drag select the two lines that are next to one another and go to collinear, and now it's fixed this in place. Okay, so it's kind of a bit of a workaround, but at least we can get SolidWorks to do what we want. So if I move this line up and down, it stays perpendicular. Okay, so exit the line, and you'll see now it's placed a much shorter line. Also changed the symbol. You can either click on this on the whole thing, or you can double click on the section line. You can, if you want to change a letter, you can just double click on the letter and then change it from there. So I'm going to make that C, capital C, and it will change everything. It will change the view, section CC in the view, and it will change the view. So it's all done for you. So it's actually pretty neat. And if you don't like it in that view, you can click on this little, double click on this little point, and it'll give you a different view. That's not the view I want. Double click on that. Okay, so, and we can't really get rid of this. I don't think select chain. We can. All right. So I would actually leave it in just to guarantee that this line stays as it should, but you can get rid of it. So I'm going to do this again on this one just to show you the difference. Let's go to section view. Place that. Okay, so before I finish this, I'm going to go to edit sketch, drag this in, drag it in, put this little rectangle in place, 1, 2, 3, select chain. It won't let you select the whole thing to do for construction ahead of time, which is a pity, but you can still do it. And then one of the nice things about being in a model view is that if you do drag select, it'll only select the lines that you've put in place. So you don't need to worry about dragging the wrong things. So hit collinear. Okay, that's where I want it to be. Say exit the sketch. There we go. It's placing that. Let's put that up there. Okay, and I want it to face. I want this to face. Right, not letting me select that. What it's doing is it's selecting the view. So, there we go. All right, so I won't be able to double click in here because I think it'll just keep selecting the view. But if I double click on this, and then as soon as the letter is outside the view, I can should be able to double click it. There we go. Okay, so that's my section DD. So as soon as something's inside the view, when you select it, it becomes difficult to select it or impossible. Section DD. So let's measure what it says. Now, here's parallelism in work. I mustn't select that point to there. Where is it? You really want to select that line to that point. Let's try that again. From there, wait till the point appears. So that says 5.1. And if we go across to this other section, which is the true section, and we do the same thing, we get 5. And 5 is correct. I know because when I drew it, that's correct. So you must also do your section views. If you're going to do them to get this sort of dimension here, you must do them inside, or in the view which is a true view, to be able to get the true dimension of the depth. Okay, so I'm going to delete this section view because it's wrong, and just select that and delete it because we don't need it. So let's do that again. one more time, section view, and in this case, because we're in a true view already, we should be able to get, in this case, a much easier ride. There we go. So I can choose the center points, and because I know they're perpendicular, that's great. Before I click yes, I'm going to say edit sketch. I also want this to be much smaller. Drag the points in. Just say exit the sketch. Okay, and then place this somewhere. Place it up there. All right, section 00. And let's see if we can get this to do it. Yes, it does. Okay, so this is going to be E. So it's updated everything. And here I can go in section from there to there. And that's 8, which is correct. I know it's correct because I did it earlier. All right, so that's what you do to get your section view. Oh, the other thing we wanted to do here is just to get this angle. So angle, go to my usual favorite angle tool. Ooh, it doesn't want to do that. So in this case, I might have to do select a line. That's good enough. And you can quite legitimately go and place these in another part of your drawing. So let's just break alignment on these. Maybe put them one by one so that they follow alphabetically. So section CC, section EE, that's view A, that should come like this. So we're missing a B, but that just makes it easier for whoever's looking at this to go and trace. Okay, so here's view A, here's C, here's E. So you have B and D in between. I see here that center line belongs to this view, so I'm going to drag it out, click on the view, put it inside. I don't know if it's going to do that. Let's move that around. No, it hasn't. So that little CL is actually associated with this view. So I'm going to have to delete it. I can Control C, Control V. And now if I move this view around, yes, you'll see that the CL is associated with this view and won't change. So far so good. Now the last thing we need to do is just to deal with this little item here, which we will get from, let's see, so we can get it from this view, or we can get it from that view. This is probably a better view here. You see that line is end onto myself, and that line represents this plane here. So I'm going to go back to auxiliary view, place my auxiliary view, and here, before I do anything, I can actually change the letter. I think I might have said this before. Let's make that B. Okay, so that's B. Did not like that. Did something wrong there. Auxiliary view. Okay, so I had to click. Once I'd done my letter, I had to click inside the drawing just to see what was going on. So here you can see that these have got center marks, which are aligned sort of according to X and Y planes, not according to the circle, but I can now dimension positions. So there's one, and I can go from here. So give that, go from there to there. Oops. So those are my positions, and I can see, well, I know, I'm pretty sure that these need a center line of some sort. So here it's quite simple because I can select center points, and I can see that they're centered around here, and then I can dimension the slots. And I should be able to dimension like that. Just make sure that the dimension doesn't do what I've just done there. Make sure it's parallel and perpendicular so that we've got a true dimension. So I'd rearrange these a bit better so that they read neatly. Okay, so I've got position, I've got position, I've got position. All I need now is the depth. And here I can either do a section view on there, or I know, because I know that that goes inwards, those go inwards, I'd have to do a bit of a guessing game if I wanted to do a section view through here. So you can do one of two things. I think you might be able to go into this view and just give it a transparency. There we go. I mean, not transparency, hidden line. I genuinely don't like hidden lines because they're much more difficult to read. So for this exercise, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do my section view and then take these off. Yeah, okay, let's do that. Section view. Right, edit sketch. Take that across, I think. Don't think I can get it. No, can't. So we're going to have to do the rectangle trick again, from there to there to there. Get those to be collinear. Select everything, say for construction. Right, so I'm happy with that. Let's go out. Wants to know where I want to put the view. I want it over there. Don't like R's. I want that to be D. So let's go back. So that's given us D. Right, I'm going to go back to this view and take off the hidden lines and then break alignment here. So, and pull this down over here. So we can, here are all our views, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so it's easier to just see where they come from. We're missing B, huh? So B needs to come in here. So that could probably go down here. Let's see. You can always move this text closer to where you want it to be. And let's break alignment on this one. Put that in there. Okay, that's neat. View A, view B, section C, section D, section E. So step by step. So there's D, E, A, and where's B? B is somewhere here. So that's that done for now, and so that should give you a good idea of how to do this kind of dimensioning. I'm not going to dimension the rest of it, but just very important to keep in mind that any feature which is not true to you, in other words, if you look at a view, so that plane there, I can't see what's going on in any of the 3 standard views. If that's the case, you need to get it on auxiliary view, and you need to do in this case, you need to do your section view in the auxiliary view. In this case, because I'm flat on, it's okay to do it like that. Right, the last thing that I dealt with yesterday was the problem of putting dimensions in using the magic button. I always call it the magic button. I'll find the name now. Without watching what happens. So I think yesterday I had gone into this sketch just to show you how these dimensions get pulled in. So I deleted this one after a bit of fuss, and I put it back in because it was the only way to get this little modify button to appear. And just to show you that grayed out selected button says mark dimension for drawing. So if you don't want a dimension to come through to your drawing, then you would click on this button and it wouldn't appear. So that button just makes sure that all of the dimensions that you have in the drawing are available to you when you go into the drawing environment. So it's a default setting in SolidWorks. It's also a setting that I try and make sure happens in all my setup files. So that's what that's about. And so that can cause problems. So that yesterday I'd gone through to one of these other sketches. I think the sketch I want to show you is that one there. Edit the sketch. So let's go back to the back side. So I'd actually established these sketches while I was doing it. That made sense to me in terms of the model. So I've lined up that line there with the top line, or it's sort of 0.8, no, it's a certain distance away from something else, that they interfere and that it all works. But some of these dimensions, like this 55, that 0.8, this 0.8, even this 12, most of the dimensions in this drawing are not going to translate well into usable dimensions in the drawing environment. So I'm going to just close this down, and then I've actually opened the drawing file already and brought these two views in. We went to the view layout button. Is it the view layout? Yes, no. Annotation. Model items, that's the magic button. So model items, if I select any one of these points, you'll see that the dimensions that it brings through here are mostly not usable. Like even this 55, I can assume that that's the middle of each of these two features. I'd have to put the center line in order to illustrate it. This dimension is of no use. The 3 even is not correct. It should go to the bottom of that view. So I in fact need section views of all of these ribs and actually 2 section views. This 7, for instance, is not correct. I can pretty much guess that that line there is referring to the top of this rib or the end of this rib. So I'd have to pull that across, then it would be legitimate. The 1 not usable, 0.8 not usable, 0.5 is, yes, that's kind of usable. 12 should go to the bottom because there's a taper on this. So just be careful of that. If you bring something in, especially when it's got to do with complex parts, make sure that it's doing what you want it to do. It's dimensioning anything useful. That especially you don't have dimensions pointing to the middle of nowhere and not telling you anything whatsoever. So if you do that in your drawings, I'm going to mark you down. So please be careful of that. Thanks for watching. I will see you next week.